there! I'm Scotty. You're not. It's time for Phantasm 2! That's right. Phantasm 2. How do I put this? Oh, yeah. This movie better. Much better. Yes, it is. But it's not without its qualms. So, they tried for years to make a new sequel. Don Coscarelli didn't really want to make one because he claims that the ending of the last one was conclusive enough. And to that I ask, where is this conclusive ending you speak of? Because it wasn't in the end of the movie I watched. It was a part of the cut footage. Because I did not see no conclusive ending there. No, it was very confusing. So Universal came along, gave them $3 million to shoot a sequel, but they took the reins and had creative control and said, hey, you have to choose. You can't have a Michael Baldwin and Reggie Bannister. You have to choose one or the other. So he chose Reggie Bannister, which I feel like was the correct choice because I wasn't too fond of a Michael Baldwin in the first one. And as we go on, you'll see that I'm not a biggest fan of him or even the way his character goes in this franchise. We'll get to it. But, so they hired James LeGros. I also thought that I remember hearing something about how Bill Thornbury was supposed to come back. I know Jody died at the end of the last one, or supposedly. We never see him die. I don't know. And it's still confusing. And Universal hired James LeGros, who was a more working actor than a Michael Baldwin. Reggie wasn't a working actor either at this point. He would go on to be in other stuff like Wishmaster and Silent Night, Deadly Night of 4. But, and the rest of the Phantasm franchise. So Universal also said, hey, cut out the ambiguous shit, because we want to know what's actually going on in this movie. They went so far as to because they thought the audience was idiots, they went so far as to add voiceover for Mike, so that everyone would know exactly what is going on throughout this film, though it is dropped at some point. However, I do believe he got some ambiguity in with the character of Alchemy or Kemi. There is some ambiguity with that character because we don't really know what happened. It's like Ellie Grimbridge at the end of Halloween 3, that sort of thing. Was she always dead? Was she just at the end? There's a scene that I feel tells you she wasn't always dead. We'll get to it. But yeah, we pick up about 8 years or so later. With after the events. So we have a scene that takes place right after the events of the previous film, wherein a young Mike, who is shown in flashbacks, played by Michael Baldwin, but is done by a body double, and Reggie, as they battle Jawas in Reggie's house, and Reggie blows up the house. However, this is proven to be a dream from a new character for this film, Liz, who, much like Mike, has visions or has a connection to the tall man like Mike does, though he didn't really have visions in the first one, but he does now, and it gets even more. The reason why Mike has a connection to the tall man is explained later on in the sequels, and it gets more confusing. But yeah. So, Mike has been in an insane asylum for the past 7 or 8 years, and is getting released. But as they getting released on good health by the doctor, but as the voiceover that Universal put in tells us, he's actually lying. Thanks for telling us, because we couldn't figure it out on our own. Now could we? So he immediately, after getting a clean bill of health, he immediately goes to a graveyard to dig stuff up. And Reggie finds him there somehow, and he says, no, none of that happened. My house didn't blow up. Again, so they are telling us that this never happened. But I still find it ambiguous because if they're saying that the events of the first... Ooh, hail. He's hailing. You hear that? We're having a storm here in Minnesota. Yes, hopefully the power stays on while I do this review, else. So... They tell us that none of the events of the first film and this opening has actually happened. However, they then contradict that by saying, "Oh, look, he's dug in all these things. All the bodies are gone. And then we know the tall man does exist. But yet, Reggie's house is still intact. And Jody is still dead, despite the fact that he wasn't dead at the end of the first one. Or he wasn't dead during the events of the first one before the cut to it being a dream. They're contradicting themselves, but they're saying, oh, hey, like, let's say it doesn't exist, but then we see that the tall man does exist. So which is it? And why is Jody still dead? We get more in the other sequels, but it's just confusing. You know what I mean? Because yeah, they go to Reggie's house and say, "Oh, the family's waiting. We got all this food," and then Mike has a vision. Your house is gonna explode, and it does. And it explodes. So now Reggie fully believes this is real. You're gonna hunt down the tall man, and then I call bullshit on nobody believing that this is going on, because they leave their town, and everywhere in between this is desert road and abandoned towns, all done by the tall man. And you're telling me that no one else knows about this, and no one else knows what this is, and they've found no connection from what Mike is saying and the stuff that's going on in the rest of the world? Bullshit. But yes, and they're on a road trip to find Liz, who's with her grandmother. Spoiler alert, her grandma dies. He turns the grandpa and the grandma into Jawas, you know, that sort of thing. And, while on the road, Mike has a dream of a woman who is dead in a morgue, but then is gone. When he wakes up, that woman is in the car with them and has alchemy. Reggie is thinking with his pecker, because, yeah, we gotta establish that Reggie is horny, which will be his main source of motivation for the rest of the franchise. He thinks with only his pecker, and that's it. Tell you what, he got nothing on top, but he must have something in the bottom if he gets all these women, you know what I mean? So yeah, and of course he has, you know, his own kind of designs on it, but they have to find Liz. So they get to this mortuary, and they find Liz. Well, they find what they think is Liz. I forgot, before we get to alchemy, they're going around to another morgue in a town, and they got like a torch and stuff. Let's talk about a couple things here. First of all, Reggie's Hemikuda. I do that because everyone calls it Reggie's Hemikuda, but clearly Jody was driving the Hemikuda in the first one, but now it's Reggie's. And I'm assuming if Jody was in a car wreck, that he was in that car. So why would Reggie then be driving the same car that his best friend was killed in or died in? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me, but what do I know? Also, the quadruple barrel shotgun. Hell yeah. Too bad they only use it once. Kills 4 Jawas. That's 4, not this. That's 4. Kills 4 Jawas, and he throws it to the side. Then he has a chainsaw battle with some dude. Chainsaws a guy in the nuts. But, yeah. Anyway, they get alchemy. They find alchemy. Alchemy takes her to her hometown. Everything is gone. Which is another hint that maybe there's something if everyone else... But she says she's been away, so... I don't know. And they go to this bed and breakfast, and they set booby traps. They said booty traps. You mean booby traps? That's what I said, booby traps. Shh, quiet. And yeah, so while, because they find Liz and they save her from the tall man, whatever. So while Mike and Liz are mentally fucking each other or whatever they're doing down there, Reg, and by the way, Reg is spelled Redge. It would just be Reg for Reg. I don't know. I don't do the subtitles. I don't know. He's having fun with alchemy. She's going nuts on his nuts, like woo woo, and like kissing his head, his bald head. Tell you what, ladies, you want a bald? I'm getting there. I got a bald spot here, but it's coming out. Yeah, we get tits. We get tits. You know, they're nice, sure. But then something happens, and they say, "Oh, it was like a pet." But of course, Reggie's thinking of that, and Seth's thinking of that, and Mike's like, "We gotta go. You know, we can't stay here. You know." And then, so they leave alchemy behind and say that they'll find her. Like he says, "I'll find you again," and they go on to I don't know, to fight the tall man. Eventually, they get to another mortuary where they fight him. You get the balls thing, the silver balls. You know, pretty cool. The chainsaw fight happens here, I believe. And, yes. But, we get to the finale. Okay, we'll talk about the finale. So, the tall man gets a hold of Liz again, and he's going to embalm her. When Mike and Reggie get in there, they save Liz, but Reggie adds what? Sulfuric acid to the thing, which would melt the glass that it's in, but whatever. To the embalming fluid. And so that's set up for later. Then we have individual fights. They find that they need one of those silver ball things to open the door, so they do. They're able to get it after it goes through. Like I said, it really goes through the thing. Not like that. Gnarly. Makeup effects were up in this movie, let me tell you. But they use it to open it, and it just basically opens another portal to the other world where Mike and Reggie are dangling there. They're able to get out. There's a little pre-Jawa comes out, which I had a theory was Jodie. Could be. I don't know. But you're able to get free. And once again, a tall man's trying to embalm her, but not able to. And they use somehow, and I think it's explained in one of the next sequels, Mike is able to control the sphere to go into the tall man's head, but it doesn't kill him. This weird worm thing comes out, which I think is explained also in the future film. And he fights with it, pulls it out, and then she sticks the embalming fluid, which she doesn't know has the acid in it. Okay? They turn it on, and he melts. As they go to leave, who should show up but Alchemy in a hearse? Now, this is where we get the twist that Alchemy is dead and is technically the tall man. It's shown as such when he kicks Reggie out and he's like been attacked, and when it shows the tall man, when it said it's just a dream. No, it's not. He's got a red mark on this side of his head, this side of the head, which is where the skin was pulled off. Now, as to the answer to the question, was she always the tall man? No, I think not. I would have believed it. I would have thought that if we not had a scene. We have a scene with Alchemy all by herself, finding the hearse, smiling as she found a car, and driving. So I think, here's the thing. So they get in there, and he tells Mike, hey, check that coffin, and it's empty. My theory is, when she took the hearse, it wasn't empty. And whatever was in there got her. And since the tall man can control all of his servants, physically, whatever, took her form and did that, and she's dead on the side of the road somewhere or something. That's my theory. It's a prevailing theory for me. It's my theory. Yes, and yes, the movie ends. But that means sucked out of the thing. I've heard people call this the Aliens of the Phantasm franchise, and boy, is the next one Aliens 3. Alien 3. Because, oh boy. Let's recap, though. This was bigger, badder, better, boom, boom-tastic. There was a lot more action to this than horror. You know, the flamethrowers, the shotguns, the gunshots, all that stuff. There's more gore in this, you know. I will say, the whole stuff, a lot of it was them trying to find Liz, and then once they found her, it sort of just sat there and didn't know what to do with her until she had to get captured again, and they had to save her anyway. It's a little confusing. Also, the stuff with her grandparents, it's filler so that we see what's going on her side, I guess, but it's still a bit meh for me, you know? That confusion with alchemy is also, well, confusing. I still believe that she was a regular person. Because I think that what happened was alchemy was not in her hometown when everything went to shit. So she was not affected. She was on her way back, and she discovered all this stuff. And she finds the hearse. And just drives to the next town. Or maybe she sees what it says on the hearse and finds the nearest funeral home that has that. And finds it. That's where they are, right? Technically, they would still be in the same town, you'd think, right? I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So, was this better than the original? I think yes. I think when you add up the action and Reggie becoming more of the guy that we know and love, I think it works. Much like with Evil Dead 2, it makes him more the character we're gonna get to love and know and love throughout the franchise. James DeGrasse, I think, is the best Mike. I'm sorry to say that Michael Baldwin does not improve. And it's not just his acting, it's the stuff they write for him and the rest of the franchise that really just makes you go, what were you trying to do? But I do appreciate that, that Don Costa really stuck to his guns with the rest of the sequels and wanted to keep his cast. It just makes it even more confusing for the rest of the films that he wanted to stick with certain stuff. But what do I know? So, I will say that Phantasm 2 is pretty good. So, what are your thoughts on Phantasm 2? Let me know in the comments below. You should like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.